Hello and welcome to another Jolly Phonics session with me, Dan. I work for an organisation called Beyond Ourselves. If you've not heard of us before, we've been active on the Copper Belt in Zambia for the last 12 years, working with schools, trying to develop community schools in particular, looking at supporting them financially as well as professionally. And during that time of supporting these schools professionally, that's when we started using Jolly Phonics. So Jolly Phonics is a great program. It was developed in the UK and it's specifically for helping learners break through to literacy in English. So it's about learning the sounds of English and then being able to then apply that knowledge of the sounds, how they pronounced, what they look like, how they're formed, how they're written, and applying that then to being able to read or break through to literacy by encoding and decoding words. So when I say decoding words, what I mean by that is it's about blending sounds together to be able to read words. And so we started using that program about 12 years ago, and then about 6 years ago we started working with the government to do trainings in government schools. And during that course we decided that we really needed to contextualize the Jolly Phonics program. So at that point we looked at taking this program that is working internationally, but really making it bespoke for Zambia so that it reflects Zambia in terms of its illustrations, its content, its stories, also in looking at how it fits in with the curriculum. But then finally, really kind of just looking about sustainability and how can we teach this amazing program, but really from just one resource. And that's when we came up with the Jolly Phonics teaching aid. So this is a resource that has been approved by the original authors of the Jolly Phonics program. It's been approved by the publishers of Jolly Phonics in the UK, but it's also been approved by the Ministry of Education. And importantly, really importantly, it was approved in 2021 for use in grade 3 under the old curriculum, but we've had it revalidated. So we've had a look at it against the new curriculum for 2023, and we've been looking at how it fits in there. And so it's been approved and validated for use at grade 1. So all of those teachers that are tuning in, if you are looking at the new curriculum and you're not sure exactly under this revised curriculum how you are going to apply what you're hearing into your classroom, then we really do encourage you to get hold of the Jolly Phonics teaching aids. Get hold of this resource so that you can then teach it in your classroom. So there's two copies that we look like. So we've got a black and white copy and then we've got a color copy. They are exactly the same on the inside, but one of them just a bit more expensive to produce. That's really the only difference. Okay, so today, hopefully you're joining us after having been through the rest of these live training sessions. So this is the 5th training session. We have been looking at this for a while now together. So we started just before Christmas and we started off looking at an overview or an introduction to Jolly Phonics. We've been looking about what has been done historically in Zambia. Why is it not working generally? Like, it works for some learners, but why are so many learners being left behind? We looked at rote learning, we looked at Jalita and Malenga, and just the repetition of words in those books that really isn't just encouraging learners to remember words. And we talked about how the importance of moving away from a methodology that relies or revolves around memorizing words and moving towards this methodology that is about learning sounds so you can then apply that sound knowledge to be able to read any word. And that's the key thing that we're looking at with Jolly Phonics, is how to read specifically decodable words using our sound or phonic knowledge. And this is the same approach that we're using in Zambia with PLP in Zambian language. We're talking about learning the sounds of a language in a specific order and then building those sounds together, blending those sounds together to be able to read words, but also using that same sound knowledge to be able to hear the sounds in words, identify the sounds in words, and then being able to write or spell words as well. So session 1 was an overview and an introduction. Session 2, we talked about the first 5 steps of a Jolly Phonics lesson. So we talked about the practical steps that you take as a teacher when you're trying to guide your learners through this program. And then after we did those 5 steps, we had some videos from Matthews Lologi, one of our trainers, as well as some videos from teachers around the country who have submitted videos of their good practice as well. So we saw what it looks like in a classroom situation. And then yesterday, we looked at the remaining 3 steps of a Jolly Phonics lesson. We looked at blending, sounding, and dictation. And so those are the 3 steps that we're going to be looking at today in a practical way. What does that look like in a classroom? So again, we've got a video from Matthews, as well as a couple of videos from a couple of other teachers as well. And we really want you to see what it looks like in a classroom situation. But if you're joining us for the first time, first of all, please do make sure that you greet us, tell us where you're joining us from. If you're joining us again because you enjoyed it before, don't be selfish. Tell your friends, tell your colleagues, bring them along, okay? This is a Jolly Phonics journey. We know that this program works. We have tested it extensively on the Copper Belt. We've seen it working time and again in Zambia. We've seen learners that are using Jolly Phonics make 2 or 3 times the progress over the course of a year than those children that were just using the PLP program in English. And so we're really excited to be able to launch this nationwide. We're really excited to see that there are changes to the curriculum that means that programs like Jolly Phonics are really going to be the things that change the way that we teach literacy and ensure that in English, children are breaking through so much easier and that we're not leaving those children behind. We're not needing all those catch-up programs to keep children caught up. But instead, we're going to make sure that everybody's coming along on this journey, okay? So, buckle in. We're going to watch some videos. We're going to have some interactions, and I'll talk about some of the highlights that I want you to see from the videos as well. Okay, so without further ado, here is Matthews.
Hi, we are going to run through the Jolly Phonics lesson, and I'm going to demonstrate how you can follow all the 8 steps in the Jolly Phonics lesson. Now, I'm going to mime some actions, and I want you to tell me what word it is. So I'll run through some actions, I'll be doing the actions, and you'll be putting the sounds together. Afterwards, you tell me the word. Okay. I'll do it again. I'll do it again. What word do you think that is? Snap. Well done. Okay, class.
So, first things first, I wonder if you understood what he was doing there. So that was blending. That's the introduction to blending. So just a reminder, so far the lesson has started with sound revision. Then we've looked at introducing a new sound of the day through a story that introduces the sound as well as an action. Once we've done that, we then make sure that we consolidate all of that by teaching our learners a jolly song. And that jolly song reminds us of the story, it practices the sound of the day, and it also practices the action. And it just puts all of those things together in a really memorable way. Yeah, we talked about how it's much easier to remember the words to a song than it is to remember like a whole page in a book. Yeah, so that helps to make the sounds memorable. It helps to practice and revise and really cement that into our long-term memories. And then the lesson moves on to letter formation. And in letter formation, that's when we're looking at, we know what the sound is and how to say it, we know what it looks like, but how do you form it correctly? So that's handwriting. And so that part of the lesson we teach the formation of the letter, we look at the size of the letter, we look at the starting point, and we read through the formation. And then now we're moving on to blending. And so the blending part of the lesson that Matthews has started here with is oral blending. So if you remember yesterday, we saw a video of a young girl doing oral blending. And that's where, as a teacher, well, you are getting your learners to practice putting sounds together, but without writing it on the board. Okay, so it's about getting them to hear the sounds and put those sounds together to hear the words. So yesterday, oral blending looked like a teacher saying s, a, t, and the learners going sat, or the teacher going p, e, n, and the learners going pen. This is still oral blending. What you saw Matthews do just now is still oral blending because he did the actions. So for instance, I could go p, e, n, and then the learners have to say what the word was. Okay, so they're still orally blending that because you're not writing the word, you're getting them to put those sounds together to make the word orally. Okay, so oral blending is a really good way to warm your learners up to the blending part of a lesson. The other thing I wanted to point out from this is what was great is that Matthews also practiced think, talk, share. Okay, so he does the action once, or he does the actions once, and then he gets, rather than just kind of taking your, the hands up. Yeah, do you remember think, talk, share? So rather than just doing the actions once and then your fast learners put their hands up, they call out an answer and everybody just choruses. This is a way to make sure that everybody's coming along on the journey. So he does the actions once, he does them again to give everybody more thinking time. Then he does them again, but giving everybody an opportunity to talk to their neighbour, and then they give the answer. So maybe let's just rewind that and look at that again before we move on.
Some actions, I'll be doing the actions, and you'll be putting the sounds together. Afterwards, you tell me the word. Okay? I'll do it again. I'll do it again. What word do you think that is? Snap. Well done. Okay, class.
So then after doing oral blending, he then moves on to blending. Okay, and so that's when we've got words written on the board. So I want you to watch what he does here. I'm not going to interrupt it, but watch what he does. The words that he's taking come from the Jolly Phonics teaching aid. So he's teaching, if you remember from the other day, he's teaching the A sound. So if you've got a teaching aid, that's page 53, and that's what he's going through. Okay, so he is going through the blending words just up here. Oh, that's hard to do backwards. Okay, so he's going to be going through these words here. That's what he's going to do. And I want you to notice how he models how to blend. This is a really key part of a blending part of the lesson. Blending part of the lesson is getting children to practice or develop the skill of being able to put sounds together to read words. And so what he does is he really coaches the learners through how to put sounds together to be able to read words. Whilst he's doing this, I want you to watch and I want you to think maybe what are some of the other activities that we talked about yesterday that he could also do as part of a blending lesson. Okay, but here's Matthew's.
Some blending. I've got 4 words I've written here on the board. The first word is this one. I'll be asking you and you'll be answering me. Can we do that? Nice. What other sound is this? The sound that we are playing today. Well done. What about this one? Yes. when you get A, put it together with what word does it make? What does it make? Yes. M. Nice. M. Remember, these are sound patterns. They are telling us how many sounds are in that particular word. Altogether, today we have learned the letter sound A. A. 2 letters, but making one sound. Is it clear? And that's why we have one sound pattern here. How many one? Good. Fiunda fibidi, filipamo, that's top filanda filipanda chunda chinga, chimo. A. Nice. Let's look at the word number 2. What letter sound is this? Good. How about this one? Nice. This one, the one that we are playing to feel, right? It's what? A. And the last one. When you join what word does it make? What do you think the word is? Yes, train. Train. Well done. Let's go to the third word. What letter sound is this? I've told you these sounds, you must tell me. Good. I like it, you're also doing the action. What about this one? The letter sound that we have learned today. Nice. A. And the last one? Nice. A. What do you think the word is? Paid. Nice. Let's go to the last word, number 4. What letter sound is this? Wow. Almost the whole class was doing it. Nice. And this one? Well done. You're good for good. Amy has got a pen in her ear. And this one? Great. When you get what word do you think that is? Yeah. Wow, I'm happy. Well done.
Okay, so that was the blending part of the lesson. What he's done there is that he's really focused our learners on being able to identify the sounds. How well are they able to identify the sounds? And I've got the words here. So kind of really focusing, remember that this is the A lesson. So he started yesterday or the other day on teaching the A sound in the story, introduced that, looked at letter formation, but now it's about applying that knowledge and at the same time developing the skills of blending or reading. So these words here, these words are all safe words. And when we talk about safe words, I did introduce that a few lessons ago, but let's see if you remember what a safe word is. Let's see some of your comments here as well. So what is a safe word? Think about that. And how do we define it? So whilst we're waiting for that to come in, these are all examples of safe words. And it's really important that you only use safe words when you're getting your learners to develop this skill of blending. Okay? Because a safe word, as we see the answers coming in, is a word that only contains sounds that you've already taught your learners. So what that means is that if we're on the A sound, so if we're here on the A sound, it means that we've taught our learners all of these sounds already, and this is the sound that we're on. And so if you look at these words here, you'll notice that A, we've already taught the sounds in that word. So therefore, it's reasonable to expect that our learners can read those words because they know that this is A, because that's today's sound. So they know that already. and then they already have practiced, or they've learnt but then they've also been practicing it in those sound revision, but also in those other blending words that you've used in since teaching the sound itself. So, A and So there's two sounds there. And what's great is that you saw that Matthew's pointed out that the A sound is a digraph. Yeah, it's two letters making one sound. And that's a new thing that's been introduced to our learners during this lesson. Okay, so A, and it was great that he's coaching the children through putting those sounds together. A, So it's A, Now, he's not going, this is important, he's not going A, because that doesn't help us hear the sound. We want our learners to be able to hear the sound. We want them to be able to go A, aim. Yep, and that's why we practice oral blending, because that's the same skill, right? If you've got your learners and that they're able to go s, at, and they can say sat, then it's the same thing that when they're reading they can go A, and they hear the word aim. Yeah, and that's what we're aiming. That's what we're aiming for. No pun intended. So let's have a look at this last one as well. So I'm going to do one more. So number 4. The way that he did this, watch this. So he highlighted the sounds again. So what's the first sound you can see? It's the letter, well, the first sound that we've got there, or maybe I should say this. Another great thing that you can do with the actions is you can get all of your class to participate by getting them to give the answer through the actions. Yeah. So I can say, what's the first sound that you've got here? And all of my learners, if they need a little bit of thinking time, I can give them thinking time. But they should be able to go, yeah, because they know that, because they were taught the sound just here. Yeah, so that was a number of lessons ago. So that's good. Then the next sound that we're looking at, and as a teacher, I always like to play a bit stupid here. And so I might say, the next sound is ah. And they'll be like, no, it's not ah. Because when ah and I are together, they make a new sound, A. And that's what you really want them to know. You want your learners to be able to look at that when they see these two letters together, it makes the sound A. So we've got and A. And if you remember, yesterday we started doing the blending song as well. So we could even say to our learners, so and A together, that makes, and hopefully they remember, and A together makes, and they should be able to put those sounds together to make nay. So we've got nay, and then what's this last sound that we've got here? It's a licking a lollipop. So we've got nay, nay, and so what's the word? Nail. And that's a really effective way to do this lesson, is that you are modelling how to blend these words together, how to blend these sounds together to make the words, okay? And it's really important that we're using safe words. And that means it's really important that we're teaching the sounds in the Jolly Phonics order. Because if you're trying to teach the sounds in an alphabetical order, or if you're thinking, oh, I'm not going to teach the digraphs because they're a bit tricky, then actually it means that your learners wouldn't be able to do this. And your learners might end up going, ah, I, na, il, and then they're saying the words wrong, okay? So blending, really important to do it that way. There is an activity that we didn't get a chance to model yesterday. I'm just wondering, yeah, we've got time to do it now. Do you want to do this activity with me? So this is going to take your participation, okay? So I'm going to have to watch this other screen as well. So the way that we do this is we're going to play the show me game, okay? So the show me game is an effective way, or the most effective way that we've found so far, to try and hear all of your class read. Now, we know that in government schools in Zambia, that some of the class sizes get pretty big. And in fact, yesterday, we saw that even one of the teachers that's using Jolly Phonics and says that it's working in her classroom, she was talking about how she's got 112 learners in her classroom. So This can work for big classrooms because it's really hard to hear all of your learners read in a classroom. I know that often assessment week ends up taking more than just a week because teachers are trying to hear each individual child read. And maybe they've got multiple classes that are over 100 students. So this is a way to kind of hear your children read or to assess their ability to read. And it's not perfect, but it's the best that we've been able to come up with for a large class. If you've got better ideas, we would love to hear them. So that is an open invitation. Okay, so I've got 4 words up here. So let's pretend that we're at that part of a lesson where Matthews has just modelled all of these words and that we've read them through with our class. So now we're going to play the show me game. And the show me game works like this. I'm going to read one of these words. I'm going to say it out loud. And you're going to need to tell me whether I'm reading word number 1, word number 2, word number 3, or word number 4. And in a classroom situation, so for instance, if I said train, you would have to look at all of the words, and then you would say that it was number 2. But in a classroom situation, it's not going to work if you're all calling out 2. Okay, so we're not going to do it by you calling out, but in a classroom situation, we would do it by you showing me the number of fingers that is next to, the number of fingers for the number that is next to the word. So for instance, if I said nail, you would show me 4 fingers. Let's do it there, 4 fingers. If I said aim, you'd show me 1 finger. Does that make sense? So what I would do as a teacher is that I would say, all right, I'm looking at these words. Can you tell me which word is train? Train. And so your learners then are looking at the words and they're looking to see, well, which one says train? And so they're looking for the sounds that they can hear and they're looking to see, or to read these words and to read which one says train. And so hopefully, if you're doing this at home as well, you would be able to tell me that it is word number 2. Okay, good. Sorry, I'm just looking at some of the questions that are coming in as well. So it's good to see some definitions of safe words still coming through. So a question just about sound buttons. Yes, we definitely recommend adding those sound buttons as you're teaching. Yeah. That's the key thing. So we'll talk about that with the pictures as well, but sound buttons really help to focus the learners on the sounds that are in the word, because you want to identify that in the word paid, we've got p, a, d. Because if we didn't have the sound buttons, then they might be tempted, or they might not notice that the A and I together, when they're written together, they make the A sound. Okay? All right. So there was a question about safe words as well. So let me just address that one too. So I don't know if you have to tell them that they're safe words, but I think it doesn't hurt as well. Yeah, you can just let them know that these are words, and we know that they're safe words because they only contain sounds that I've already taught you. And basically the thing that you're highlighting is you're not asking them to do something that seems impossible. So yeah, I think it's worth telling them about these words being safe as well. Okay? So that is blending, and that is really a skill that you want to develop in your learners. And the great thing about this, often we see that teachers can misunderstand the purpose of teaching children to read, and that they instead it's like, okay, these are the 4 words that we're going to drill our learners. We're going to chorus these words to make sure that they have learnt these words. And that's completely misunderstanding this part of a lesson. We are not, and I'm going to do an extreme close-up for this. We are not teaching children to read these words. We're not teaching children these words. But instead, we are developing the skill to be able to apply sound knowledge, phonics knowledge, to be able to read words like this. To be able to read these words and other words. And in fact, if you remember back to the first day when we were talking about safe words, that in our books here, there's these sections that are safe words. So when you've taught the A sound, your learners should be able to read all of these words, because all of these words contain the A sound as well as all the sounds, as well as sounds that they've already been taught. So every time you learn a new sound, you're unlocking more and more words that your learners can read. Okay, and so you can use those safe words at the bottom. You can have them on flashcards. You can have them on posters in your around your room. But as you teach a sound, those words, all of those words, become words that children in your class should be able to read and should be able to write as well. Okay, so that brings us on to writing or sounding. We're going to look at that now. So this is the next part of the lesson.
Let's do some sounding. Okay, I've got 4 pictures with me here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I want you to follow me.
Again, sorry, I'm not sure that you can see those pictures clearly. So if you can't see those pictures, let me just show you what they are. So remember, they are on page 53. We're looking at our A lesson. And those pictures are these pictures here. So he's got a snail, a rain cloud, a belt, and the tail of a dog. So really, the purpose of these pictures, remember, when you're drawing this on the board, it's not an art lesson. They don't need to be really clear. The purpose of these pictures really is that you want to get your learners to write some safe words. So these pictures are all clues for your learners for the words that you want them to write. So for instance, snail is a safe word because snail, if we go back to our poster here, snail uses sounds that our learners have already been taught. Yeah? So s, n, a, l. Rain, r, a, n. The next one is belt, b, e, l, t. That doesn't contain the A sound, but it practices the sound from the lesson before. And then the last one is tail. So we've got t, a, l. So all of those words that those pictures represent, they are safe words. And so the pictures, the purpose of the picture is to get your learners to think, okay, I'm going to have a go at writing some words on my own or with a friend or with a class. So Matthews is going to model that, doing that with the class. But when you've done a couple of those pictures, you could get your learners to then try and write that on their own. But it depends on what their ability's like. If they need to be modelled for all 4 of them, then that's what you need to do. Whereas if you've got faster learners, you might say, okay, I want you to go out and write this word for yourself whilst I work with this table that need a bit more support. Okay, so let's get back to Matthews and let me move out of the way.
I'm not a good artist, I'm not a drawer, I'm not a painter, I'm just a teacher. So, what do you think this is? Snail, wonderful, snail. Now, in the word snail, which you remember? In color, yeah. In the word snail, what is our first sound? What sound can we hear at the first? Yes. Nice. Is there another sound you can hear after S? Yes. Well done. Is there another sound you can hear after snail? Yes. We are hearing the sound for today, which is A, S, A, S, A. Well done. Snail. Snail. Well done. How many sounds are in the word snail? So we're going to put up our fingers. We'll be like s, four sounds, and that's why we have 4 sound patterns there. The sound that we are playing today, in the word snare, is it at the beginning, at the middle, or at the end? We shall aim for first, pakati, and last. Snare, pakati, at the middle. Well done. Let's go to picture number 2. What do you think is happening here? And it's the weather we are in right now. It's raining. It's raining. Now, the weather I want, or the weather I'm looking for, it's rain. Rain. What's the first sound you can hear in the word rain? Let's do it together. Nice. Is there another sound you can hear after? What sound is it? Nice. The sound for today. Is there another sound you can hear after A? You are good students. Rain. Now, we've got Today we're going to let the sound A. Is it at the beginning or at the end? Yes. At the middle. I was trying to confuse you. I just said, is it at the beginning or at the end? And I left out at the middle. And you've got it. The sound A is at the middle in the word rain. How many sounds are in the word rain? 3. Well done. Nice. Okay. Look at this picture. What do you think this is? Yes. Belt. Nice. Belt. Well done. Belt. What's the first thing you can hear in the word belt? Belt. Is there another sound you can hear?
Okay, so you can see the pattern that he's going through, right? So it's getting his learners, first of all, can they identify what the picture is? So he asks that first, because it's really important. If you're going to get your learners to write those words, they need to be able to know what that is. So it's what is the picture? And then it's like, that's the bit you can drill. You can say, yes, it's snail, and this is rain. Good. So then it's about developing that skill of sounding. So can a child think of a word and listen to the sounds that they can, well, what sounds can they identify in the word? So snail, the first sound that we can hear is S. Now, if your learners need this, you can say, yes, the first sound is S. What does a S look like? Is it a tall letter, a small letter, or a 4 letter? And then they'll say, oh, you know, and then they might say it's a small letter. And then you would say, okay, so where does it start? It starts in the middle. And what does a S look like? How do we write that? And then they'll do it in the air and say, yeah, it's that one, remember? S. So you can write it with your learners as you are sounding it out. So you can show them what that looks like, because that's the whole process. So we've got S. What's the next sound that we want to have in snail? Snail. It's the sound. What does a look like? Is it a tall letter, a small letter, or a 4 letter? It's a small letter. And it starts in the middle, and we're going to go down, up, over, down. Okay? Snail. So we've got sn. What's next? Sn. We've got the A sound, and that's today's sound. So what does that look like? We know that one. We've already practiced that. You've already practiced that in letter formation, right? So your learners will know that well. It's the where we've got an A and an I together to make the A sound. Okay, so we've got S, N, A, and then we've got one more sound to go. We've got snay, but we want snail. So what sound's left? The L sound. So that's when we say, well, what does a L look like? Is it a tall letter, a small letter, or a full letter? It's a tall letter, isn't it? And so it starts at the top and it goes down and flick there. And so we've got 4 sounds there in the word. So you can go through how you actually write it with your learners, but here's the key thing. When your learners are doing this independently, you've got to make sure that you're rubbing that out. Yeah, because you don't want your learners just to copy the words that you've written on the board. It's not about learning these 4 words. It's about developing the skill of being able to write words containing sounds that they've already been taught. Okay, so that is sounding. There was a question that I kind of wanted to deal with just on that as well, where it's talking about how sounding, well, how does the letters and the sounds, how do they relate to one another? Because grade 1 learners won't know the letter names. And so what we've found when we've been doing this at grade 3 is that lots of the learners already do know the alphabet. And so that's been a challenge sometimes, because when children are trying to learn the sounds, it's hard for them sometimes, if they've already learned the alphabet names, it's hard for them to get away from that. I have heard of many teachers that use quite effectively the thought of, well, you've got a cow and the cow says moo. So cow is the name of the animal and moo is the sound that it makes. And so when we're thinking about letters and sounds, S is the name of the letter and S is the sound that it makes. And that's an effective way of thinking about it, because children don't have a problem looking at a cow and saying there's a moo, but they know that that's a cow and they know the sound that it makes. And so we can do the same with our learners. But Jolly Phonics, when you're introducing sounds, often it's been seen as that it can be confusing for your learners if you're introducing sounds and letters at the same time. So sounds does take a priority. Sounds are what's going to help children learn to read, and letters can come later on. And so when we're talking about digraphs, you can talk about how a digraph, like the one that makes the sound A, you can talk about this being A and I. When A and I come together, they make the A sound. So you can talk about it like that rather than talking about letter names at that point as well. Okay, so continue with your questions. Let's continue with the lesson. So we've looked at blending and then sounding. You've seen that modelled. At this point in the lesson, you would get your learners to have a go at writing these words. And so it might be that with your slower learners, you're doing that with a small group and you're taking a lead on that. And just like Matthew's modelled, you'll do that with them. But maybe for some of your faster learners, they would do this in pairs, or they could do it on their own as well. The idea is that we want to get our learners to be able to hear a safe word, think of the word, and have a go at writing that out. Okay, so we're going to go through to the last part of the lesson in a moment, but maybe let me just say this. The idea is that when learners have got through to teaching, well, when they've learnt all of these sounds, that they can have a go at writing any word in English. Now, here's the thing. They might not always spell it correctly because English is a horrible language sometimes. It's really confusing because there's 44 sounds, and actually some of those sounds aren't here just because they're so uncommon that you can actually use these instead. But there's all of these sounds, but there's actually over 170 different ways of spelling these sounds. And so a child can have a go at writing, but unless they're using the right spelling, they're going to spell it wrong. However, if they know these sounds, they can still be understood and they can write something that is readable. And that's something that we're going to be talking about in our last session together tomorrow when we're looking about tricky words, and we're also looking at how we mark children's books as well. Okay, so before we go any further, let's look at the last step of a Jolly Phonics lesson. So this is step 8, and this is dictation. So with dictation, what we're doing is that we're looking at assessing our learners' ability to be able to sound words. So when we're doing this as a class, we're modelling this, we're making sure that they can do it, we're developing that skill. But when it comes to dictation, that's when we're really kind of seeing, how do they do this? Can they do this all right? And yeah, what things do we need to work on with our learners? So here is a video, and this is from one of the teachers that has taken part in the CPD opportunity. And so maybe before you watch this, let me talk about this one thing. Beyond Ourselves are an official CPD service provider with the Teaching Council for Zambia. And as such, when you attend our trainings, you can get a CPD certificate. That certificate for attending is worth 2.5 points, so 2.5 points. However, I think there's a lot of wisdom in this, because there's that acknowledgement that anyone can attend a training. Attending a training means that you've signed in the register and you sat in a room for a day or two. The really important thing is, are you implementing that training? Are you completing the course by showing that you are using those skills and knowledge that you've acquired in that training? Are you applying that into your classroom situation? And so if you attend a training, you can get 2.5 points. But if you complete the course, you can actually earn 5 different certificates for completing the course. So you can you can earn a certificate for showing us that you're teaching the letter sounds effectively. You can earn another certificate for showing us that you're teaching letter formation effectively, that you're teaching blending effectively, that you're teaching sounding effectively, and then finally, are you teaching tricky words effectively? If you're showing us those 5 things, each of those 5 skills is worth a certificate, which is worth 15 CPD points. Okay, so it's really important when you attend trainings, are you implementing that? Are you applying that to your classroom? Are your learners benefiting from the training that you've done? If you can prove that to us, we can send you a certificate that you can use to, you can further your career with it. And the idea is that each certificate, there's 3 video tasks to do, okay? So you just have to show us how you're teaching these things, and we ask for specific things. We want to see how you're doing this certain aspects of a lesson, and that tells us whether you are effectively teaching it or not. Okay? So what you're about to watch is a video that one of the teachers has submitted to show us how she teaches dictation. Now this was a pass, and it meant that we could then further her along to getting that certificate. The final thing to say about the certificates is that if you're earning these certificates, we put you on a register that we send out to the different DEBSs. And that highlights teachers that are really taking seriously this CPD opportunity. And it also highlights those teachers that are teaching Jolly Phonics effectively enough that they can be good role models to teachers in their district. And we have seen teachers that have benefited by being highlighted as good practitioners of Jolly Phonics. It means that they've been noticed by their DEBs, and we have actually seen a couple of teachers get promotions because they've had this acknowledgement. So it's really, it's a way to kind of be noticed that you are taking your own professional development seriously, but also that you're somebody that is a literacy champion in your part of the district. Okay, so really want to encourage you on that. Also, it means that if we see you teaching Jolly Phonics effectively, you're more likely to be somebody that we take on a journey to become a mentor of others, but then also somebody that can also be a trainer of others. Okay, so that's how we develop, well, we identify potential trainers, and that's how people get an opportunity to then travel to other parts of Zambia, but also possibly outside of Zambia, to be a trainer in Jolly Phonics. So if that sounds exciting for you, if that sounds like something that you think that you can do, I really want to encourage you to take part in the TCZ videos and earn those certificates and really make sure that you're shining as somebody that's got that potential to be a groundbreaker in Jolly Phonics. Okay, so the last part of the lesson, remember this is a video from a teacher that showed us that she's implementing this training in her classroom. So this is all the way from Mufalira. Here we go.
Okay, so now we'll do some dictation. I hope we all have number 1 up to 8. Okay. So number 1 up to 4, I only want you to write sounds. Today one. Yes. Okay. So I start. I have an umbrella. Write the sound from umbrella. Umbrella. Write the sound as in umbrella. Sounding Number 2, that's a strong man. Strong. Strong. Write the sound. Okay, strong. Number 3. Number 1, Number 2, Number 3, this pie is nice. Pie. Right sound. I. This pie is nice. Pie. Right sound. I. Number 4. I have pain in my head. I have pain in my head. Pain. I want you to write sound A. From pain. A. Number 4, sound A, as in the word pain. 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 Number 5.
So something to point out at that point, maybe a couple of things. One, quickly, is that her classroom is actually next to the bathroom, so unfortunately there can be background noise, so I apologise for that, but that can't always be helped. But it helps you to know that it's a real life situation, and it's a real classroom, and a real teacher, and a real school. What you'll notice is that as she's doing these sounds, and as she does the words, it's really important that she puts them into a context. So that first one, when she did the sound she said as in the word umbrella. And that really helps their learners to not write, the letter A. They might go they think that the teacher's saying but actually it's as in umbrella, and it means that there's not that mistake. Also, when she does a word, she puts it into the context of a sentence. She'll say a word, she'll say a sentence, and then she'll highlight the word that the children have to write. And then she'll also use vernacular to make sure that the learners understand the context of the word as well. Okay, so that's all really important to see. So let's carry on with this. There's just a couple of minutes left.
The driver splashed water on me. The driver splashed water on me. Write the word splash. Queen. Queen. The queen is beautiful. Write the word queen. Queen.
Okay. So I hope that there's a few things that I wanted you to make sure that you noted, but you'll see what I really liked in this video. So these are grade 3 learners. I think that this was done near the end of the year, so they'd gone through all of the sounds, and you know that because queen they were doing, that was one of the words, so that's practicing the qu. So for sure, oh sorry, you couldn't see what I was doing there, but yeah, so that was practicing qu here. So therefore, remember, dictation is always safe words, and it's always using the sound knowledge that learners have got already, okay? So you're assessing their ability to sound, but you're also seeing how well they know the sounds that you've taught them to that point. But what's great in this video is that you could really see how the learners, when the teacher said the word, they would go straight to trying to write it. And just as we looked at chem yesterday, they go through that same process that you went through when I gave you that nonsense word. So as you're trying to hear a word, as you're trying to write a word, you're listening to the sounds that you can hear in the word, and that you're translating those sounds that you can hear. You're thinking, what does that look like? How do you write a qu? What's the first sound I can hear in queen? So you've got qu, e, n. So what does that look like? And that's where your learners are kind of using that knowledge that you've given them already when they've learned the sounds. Okay? So dictation doesn't need to happen every lesson. We would say that dictation probably wants to happen once a week. So with the new